Hi, I'm Jeanne Fiorini. Thanks for joining the Tarot Tips. Today we're going to talk about the Justice card. A subscriber contacted me and asked if I would talk a little bit about it, give some alternative interpretations on the Justice card. She was running into frustration. Most of what she was looking at interpreted the Justice card as being a black and white kind of, you better accept it because it is what it is kind of a thing. So I'm happy to talk about the Justice card. It is one of my favorite cards in the tarot. I always feel confirmed and supported when I get the Justice card. It's as if the card is saying the truth has been spoken. So I'm a big fan of the Justice card, and I'm happy to talk a little bit about how I see it and some of the things to pay attention to that can help you interpret it. It's not as simple as it looks on the surface. Let me give you some of the generic keywords that you might often find around the Justice card. It can be about legal matters. It can be about impartiality, as if there was a wise owl looking down on a situation and making a determination, that kind of objectivity. It can be about the maintenance of harmony, trying to keep things in balance. It can be about the laws of karma. Karma will come back to bite you, so to speak. So, what happens here is going to be offset by something else in the universe over here. So karma being a balancing force in the universe. Sometimes we're on the giving end of that, and sometimes we're on the receiving end of that, for better or for worse. Something that can really help you understand, I think, the Justice card is to pay attention to the number. Justice is card 11. And intrinsic in the 11, so it's the two pillars, which we see often in a Justice card, the 1 and the 1. But if you add those two numbers together, 1 and 1, you get 2. So justice is connected to the polarities, to the dualities of our existence. And so a lot of times with the Justice card, the question is, what are the two polarities that are trying to be balanced here? And that can always be something that can guide you in an interpretation if you get stuck around the Justice card. Some of the examples of the polarities that might be trying to be balanced in a situation might be what my head tells me and what my heart tells me, or what other people want me to do and what I need to do, or what seems to be good for the collective and what seems to be good for me. And sometimes even within ourselves, what I want versus what I need. So think about what polarities are being dealt with, trying to be balanced and or integrated, or which polarities are at odds in your life in a certain situation, and where's the mediating factor? Where's the thing that can help balance the tug of war between these two things that are maybe wanting different things in my life? The positive aspect of that is when those two things are both saying the same thing, when my heart and my head, or when what I want and what I need are the same thing, you really can't make a mistake there. I want to say you can't be, there's an authenticity when both sides of the polarity are speaking the same language. So one of the things that we run into with the Justice card is that this notion of truth. Somebody might argue that truth is a constant, and that the truth is this black and white, yes or no kind of ideal. But what we run into in reading cards with the Justice card, when the Justice card comes up, is we have to figure out, are we talking about the collective truth or the personal truth? Which is the truth or the concept or the moral that wants to be upheld here? We run into this a lot in marriages and in relationships, where the collective good might be might be perceived as staying together if there's children involved, or maybe there's money or businesses or whatever is involved here, that somebody might say, well, justice means it's right to maintain those things, to keep those things in balance. A personal version of the truth, what's my personal truth, if it aligns with that, that's great. But if my personal truth is I got to get out of here, then we have a conflict. How do we figure out how to balance those two things? Which truth is going to be saluted? Which truth is going to be acknowledged and acted on? So that's a problem, if you want to say, with the Justice card and this notion of truth. Whose truth is being held as the highest deciding factor? The collective or the personal? Sometimes the personal has to give way to the collective. Sometimes authenticity and personal well-being requires that we break from the collective version of what is true, right, and true, and go along our own path. So even if justice in the tarot deck that you're working with is number 8 instead of 11, even with 8, we get this ebb and flow of the opposites. If you just look at the number 8, it's a continuous cycle of one path and then another, and then expanding into another, but then moving into another. So there's, whether you have justice at 8 or 11, we're still working at the interplay between two different forces that are active in a certain situation. Now the justice, in comparison to 8, which is in many decks the strength card, the strength card is going to work something out viscerally, kind of in the guts. What are my guts telling me? The justice is going to deal with it analytically, mentally, as a exercise in principles. Okay, so whether or not we are talking about the collective truth or the personal truth, it's the principles and the mental air, Libran, all these things associated with the Justice card, perspective on things that's going to make the decision in the Justice card. Justice sometimes has a little, any image on your Justice card might have a little a gem or an emblem or something right at the heart chakra, meaning that in the ideal expression of justice, compassion is the bedrock. Compassion is an underlying basis for whatever justice is going to be dispensed, whatever decision is going to be made. But ultimately, justice is objectively motivated. So it comes from a place of theory and worldview and principle and ideal. So ideal justice, let me say that again. Justice is compassion in its best form. Justice is compassion based, but objectively meted out. Like, this is what has to happen. So we're back to that notion about what the subscriber mentioned about it is what it is. But I think, how we get there is important when we're thinking about the Justice card, what it means in a reading, what it might mean for us in terms of how we make decisions and how we move forward. So think about the polarities that are trying to be balanced. Think about the discernment between the collective sense of what is right versus the individual sense of what is right and true and appropriate and all of that, and see where the Justice card fits in. Okay, so there's some thoughts. We could talk for an hour about the Justice card, but hopefully that gives you some fleshing out of this idea and gives you some ideas to work with. Okay, thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.